just use the reaction icon. Give me a thumbs up. So on the reaction icon, yes, Jumoke. Prince, I can hear you. Pat, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, Damilola, good, 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 good. All right, all right, all right. Okay, good, good. To our very esteemed participants, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up for those of you who is hearing my voice for the first time. All right, thank you, Bolaji Gloria. Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Babatunde Bangoye, or you can call me David. Aisha, good. So, I represent the Triad Masterclass and Triad Series powered by Scepter Advisory. I'm one of three, and that's why it's called Triad. And it's good to host each and every one of us in this very, I believe, very important series of conversations around how do we navigate, through transitions, and more importantly, how do we grow our businesses. Our guest speaker is with us. We're just having a little bit of technical challenges, but we're resolving that. So if you don't mind, because I know that we're all time conscious, if you don't mind, can you just give us just a few minutes just to sort all of these things out? And we'll be back in another 3 minutes. So by 10:06, we would start. Oh, fantastic. Mr. Wale Agbeyangi is here. Mr. Wale, how are you? Can you hear me, sir? Can you please unmute?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for all coming in on time. So I was just saying to our participants that can we just give an extra 3 minutes, if you don't mind, sir, just get people into the room, if that's okay with you, sir.
Yes, I love that.
All right. So just give an extra 3 minutes or yeah, so we'll start 10:07. We'll start 10:07 on the dot. We are here, our guest speaker, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Mr. Wale, by the way, I'm going to be the instigator of our conversation today. So I'm going to be looking for your trouble today. So I'm your host. All right. And whilst we're waiting, if you don't mind, please, there's a poll ongoing. If you don't mind, can we all attend to it whilst we're waiting? All right. Good morning one more time, everyone. All right. And we're having more people coming. So if you can hear me, please, if you can hear me one more time, just quick check-in. Can you please give me a thumbs up using the reaction icon again, one more time? Thank you, Tosin. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yukon. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's get straight into this. I'm really excited about the conversation that we're going to have, and I'm very glad to have a consummate entrepreneur, and more importantly, one who is in the industry and understands what is going on in today's market. And I'm hoping to have a very deep and insightful conversation. One more time, my name is Babatunde Bangboye, and I represent the Triad Masterclass and Triad Series, powered by Scepter Advisory. And today we're looking at navigating growth transitions. And for us, this is a very important topic. As a way of introduction, right before I invite and give an introduction to our guest speaker, is to just let us truly understand that the world has changed. And in one of our masterclass sessions, we did say that the world has, it's what someone referred to as beyond, that we're in an era of beyond. And I found that very interesting, because when we look at the era of beyond, it simply means that technology is a leveler. We've seen that today's market has completely changed. We've seen quite a lot of indices and quite a lot of things, whether at a macro or at a micro level, that has impacted on the way we do business. The big question for us as entrepreneurs and as business owners is to ask ourselves, how do we navigate through all of these emerging reality? I like to quote Peter Drucker here, where he says that welcome to an era of 3 C's: overwhelming complexity, tremendous competition, accelerated change. I also like to add my own exponential convergence. This reality has posited for us quite a number of challenges. And the big question for every business owner is, how do we breathe? Like one person said, I'm going to mention his name, how do we breathe? So today's conversation is around that. How can we breathe and grow or scale in an era that is classified as beyond, or complex, or what they call VUCA or BANI? How can we breathe? To lead us in this conversation is a man I'm really glad that I'm having the opportunity to have a conversation with, is Mr. Wale Agbeyangi. And he is the founding MD CEO of Codros. And over the last 20 years, they've gone through a lot of transition and have become a key player in quite a number of industries. Mr. Wale himself has had decades of experience, from starting from where he started from Great Africa through Mary Strem, and being the founding CEO of Codros. He has an LLB from University of Lagos, an MBA from Business School Netherlands, and of course, he is an authorized dealer at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. He is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Stockbroker, but more importantly, he is an entrepreneur. I think that for us is important. And when you think about his business, Codros is a group, Codros Group, and they're into securities trading, investment banking, asset management, and of course, trustees. Please, can you welcome together with me, and we can actually use the clap emoji on the reaction icon. Let's welcome Mr. Wale Agbeyangi. Nice to meet you, sir. It's an honor and a privilege.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you, David. Hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly, sir. So let's go straight into this. And for me, there's a lot I would like to, a lot of questions I'd like to really ask you. But first and foremost, just to let us get into your space, can you tell us your story, sir? Your own unique story over this last 20 odd years, or would I dare say 30 odd years in the financial markets?
Okay, thank you, David, and thank you for inviting me to this discussion. I mean, good enough for me. I did not prepare for this. I actually got prepared, last night, when my colleague at the office reminded me about this program. So it's even good because I didn't have to over prepare. So I'll be speaking straight from the heart.
Fantastic, sir.
I really don't jotted down or anything prepared. Maybe just about 10 minutes ago that I started, thinking about, the topic itself. So I just want to thank you for, bringing me to share my thoughts, my experience on how my career has spanned and how I've been able to navigate the environment, and how we have been able to, build, the company that I work for now, Quadros Capital.
Yeah.
It's going to be 18, sometimes in August year. So it's been a very long journey. And, the topic talks about managing growth transits. And, so my story is very simple. I mean, I read law, never knew I would be in finance. I actually wanted to be, a lawyer practicing, just like every other lawyer, but fate just found me, made me to just be in the finance space, during my youth service. And I've been lucky to work with very, very good people who have mentored me. I've just been lucky with people generally. So it's been very easy, to navigate, that change, which is also another transition, that change, from law to finance. So it's been very good. So my journey as an entrepreneur is really very simple. Once you have an idea that you are good at what you are doing, right? I have that inspiration, and you have, the ability to challenge yourself, then it becomes one step easier, right? Once you have that knowledge of whatever you want to do, if you want to sell the most basic of items, bread, you must have that idea or knowledge on how to do it. You must know who to work with. You must know who is going to buy your product. And once you have that idea, I think it will be really, easier for you to start, that journey. And I mean, worked in, Great Africa Trust, a leasing company, a finance and leasing company. They moved to Great Africa. I moved to Meristem, a capital market services firm, a startup for that matter. Worked there for like 4 years, and it was a pleasant experience having to work with people who just had ambition. People who were driven by one purpose, to make a mark in the market. And it was quite easy. And once I saw that clearly, that I was in the right place and I was in that right direction, it was easy to say, oh, I can do this for other people as well. And that was what formed the idea of setting up Quadros Capital. So that's been my journey, simply speaking, having to understand the market, having to understand, the market was going, having to have the vision to know that the market was at the infancy. It was easy to say, oh, there's a lot coming up in the future. Why don't you just start building something now so you can take advantage of what happened? And you can understand how we have come in the market since the era of, call over, where there was no automated or technology being used in the market. And when you saw the direction that technology was coming to the market, you know that the market was going to blow up. That's what happened 20 years ago, and we're enjoying that fruit now. So that's my journey so far. Thank you.
Mr. Wale, you've said, and I'm glad that this is just off the cuff, and you're just sharing it as we go along. Sir, you mentioned quite a number of things in terms of your story, just highlighting some key things. And for me, one of the things that you mentioned, I feel is so spot on, is how do you spot trends and position yourself? Because this is what you said. Number one, you gain clarity by understanding where the market was heading to, and you were able to position yourself to take advantage of those opportunities. So again, a lot of us just seems to, so when we see Mr. Wale do something, everybody just jumps and say, you know what, Mr. Wale is Cordus is doing something, let us copy what Cordus is doing. And when we feel that we're not comfortable enough, we jump to another thing entirely, not knowing there is actually a pattern and a process to some of these things. So my question to you is that how do you spot or position yourself for growth opportunities?
Okay, so I think number one thing is to have the power of visioning, right? So vision, or is, in a simple definition, is the state of mind of where you want to be in the future now, right? So if you see opportunity, right, you should be able to predict what will happen, in years to come, and say this is where I want to be, and that's how I see, And there's nothing wrong in you copying other people. To be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with that. If somebody starts it, you have to be better. Sometimes people are not sure whether an opportunity is going to materialize, and you don't want to take that big risk. And there's nothing that to say, let me wait for David to start for 2 years. If David is able to make a success of it, I think we can also do it, right? But it is better, for example, if you already have an idea that, oh, this opportunity that I've seen is going to be very big in the next 5 years. So we are locked in. So you are going to be the one spending money on R&D. You are going to be spending money on planning and, taking decisions, setting controls. So it's difficult at that stage, but you own it, right? You own that idea, right? You are going to pick yourself on that idea. And for other people who want to, just copy what that other person has done, it's actually easier for them as well, because if you know what you also want, the right people, then you can just copy and go you that you're going to do it well. It's just not about copying people. You must just be very clear on what other people, and you can see it in the banking space, right?
Yeah.
There was the era of, you go to the banking hall, you have to get a tally number.
Your tally number.
You have to wait and wait and wait before the teller attends to you. Then comes the era of digital banking, where the likes of GT Zenith came to the market and they started trading things. Now we're in the era of digital banks who don't even have any space.
No brick and mortar. Yeah.
Oh, yes, you have banks like Kuda and the rest who don't have any brick and mortar space, and they are doing wonders. So, but you must be able to see, this is what I see happening in the future now, and you start working towards it. So it's very important to have that power of visioning, and now make it to come to life, right? And do it the way you want to do it, because you don't have to do it like David. You don't have to do it like Wale. You can do it your own and still make a success of it. We can be going to the same journey in different directions and still, get there, in a very successful manner. So that's what I think, one should do. Yeah.
Mr. Wale, you're just dropping a lot of things, and I hope that I can, because there are quite a number of things you have said. But before I sort of follow up on some of the things that you have said, please, if you have any questions or any thoughts, please, you can put it down in the comment and we will take it. Please, we really want to have a conversation with you. Mr. Wale, you mentioned the power of visioning, and I like your definition and the take you took, or in terms of defining what a vision is. You said it is the state of mind. I find that very interesting. So what that presupposes is that there is clarity, which I've kept emphasizing, but there's this staying power. So my question to you, therefore, would be, over the last 18 years, what has been your ups and downs, as the case may be, or the pitfalls? Right? Because you may have the right vision, you're clear about what you want to achieve, but how do you stay there? Because you've stayed for 18 years, and I'm so certain that you've had some good times, some bad times, and some ugly times, considering the bust and the booms during this era.
Okay. So if you don't mind, right, let me try to articulate how to manage, business growth or business transition. Let me just say one or two points.
Okay, sure.
And I'm talking about, for example, moving from a startup stage to a growth stage, right?
Yes.
Assume that, for you to be able to conceive an idea is a gift, right? That, I want to set up, a financial services company is a gift because some people can't even conceive an idea, right? Then when you now conceive idea, then you now want to be able to action it by
Yeah.
setting up a business, right? It's also a gift being an entrepreneur because some people have the idea, but they cannot transfer that idea into action, setting up a business, right?
Yeah.
Then you now have the idea, you have set up the business. Now, making a success of it is also another gift because you can have the idea, you can set up the business, and it may fail 1 year after or 2 years after.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything wrong. It's just that you just don't know how to do it. So you see people that will start a business together 18 years, 20 years, who may not be as successful. Not just because they can't do it. And you have seen people who are actually more successful than we have been, right? So it comes in different stages, in different forms. But if let's even assume now that you have set up the business, now I want to grow. I mean, I've seen a lot of my friends, my colleagues who were my junior colleagues who have set up businesses who come to me all the time and say, 3 years after, I'm struggling. 4 years after, what is going wrong? And I tell them, nothing is going wrong. You are at that stage where you have to grind. You have to grind. So there's nothing wrong with what you are doing. Just keep going. Because you need to be consistent. I need to be doing that thing. But you have to you have to have clarity of mind on where you are going. So number one, planning. And we spoke about visioning. So you must
Yes.
have, so you have done 3-4 years. Where do you see your business in the next 4-5 years? You must have that clarity that nobody sees it. Your directors may not even see it. They may not even believe what you are doing, but you have clarity of mind on where you are going, and nothing can stop you. And you must have the team that works with you in that, right? And of course, you must plan. Make sure you have your business plan all the time ready, right? So one of the things that, one of the first thing I did, which I learned having worked, in my former place, was that you must always write it down through in a strategic way. So every 5 years, for example, we speak to consultants who plan, how would we see ourselves in the next 5 years, right? And secondly, you must take the right decision. You have to be very careful in the kind of decision you take. You must be firm and say, this is what I want to do, right? That is, we're talking about you transitioning in terms of growth now. And of course,
Yeah.
controls. Make sure you risk management, internal control, financial control. You must all have that in place. Then discipline, self-discipline is very important, right? You must work very hard, right? You must have your personal discipline. You must know that you have to give all and delay those gratification, right? That helps you because you are focused on where you are going. And of course, you have to have good people around you. Some people just find it difficult to work with people. They will see everything wrong in other people. But you need to surround yourself with very good people, right? All the time. You can share those aspirations with, and you have people at different levels. You have your directors who are in charge of giving you, who are in charge of checking and make sure that you have governance to help you to help to walk you through that transition. Yeah, and have that power of oversight over what you are doing. Some people find it difficult to even work with their directors. They will always have something to quarrel about. But just don't forget that they don't owe you to do business with you. They just have to submit that oversight, and that governance that helps a business to move from that startup stage to growth stage, that you are going. So those are the things that I believe, you need to put in place during that transition period to help you from that your startup stage to a growth stage? That I see. So then you spoke about challenges, right?
Yes.
So challenges will come in different ways, and of course, you must anticipate, disappointments. And those disappointments and challenges can come in various ways. If you must have capital to work with, there's nothing as good as having the right capital mix to help you, right? Number two, you must be very careful to be able to watch your environment. I'm talking about your macro environment and the rest of it, to be sure that this is where the economy is going. How am I positioned to take advantage of it? This is where the market is going. How am I positioned to take advantage of it? This is how who are going to react in terms of people you want to employ when things like this happen. So in case of Jackpot, for example, people just submit and say, oh, all the people I want to hire left the country. But it's a good opportunity for people who are looking for that opportunity to work in a good place. Why don't you find them and make them feel that your place is the best place to work? And they will join you in building what you're doing. So, but the biggest challenge I've always had is reacting to the environment quickly. You must be able to react to the environment in a way that you can take advantage of whatever people see as that disappointment. So how you react quickly, I don't think people is a big challenge for me, because you will always find good people to hire if you treat them well. If they see you as a leader, if they see that place, if they see that company you're working for as the right place to work, I think people will submit to work in. I mean, I've had colleagues, in Codros, for example, who have worked with me 10, 12 years. I probably have people who have worked with us in Codros for like 10, 12, maybe about 7 or 8 people who have worked for 10, 12 years. Because they probably believe in our ambition, and you share that vision with them, you articulate it to them early enough, and they're able to buy into it. So, and of course, as you challenges, you must be able to see opportunities in the challenges that you have found. I mean, let me give you an example. When COVID happened in 2000, right?
Yeah, 2020.
2020, right? It was like the whole world was going to crumble. The whole world was crumble. And I remember that day, I just called 4 or 5 of my colleagues and I said, this is a big opportunity for us to make a mark in the market. They said, why? I said, yes. People are going to react differently. So we also have to react differently to this disaster that's about to happen. And I kid you not, COVID year 2020 marked a big turning point for Codros, because we recorded our biggest growth in that year, and it has never stopped. And been growing maybe at about 50% CAGR year on year since 2020, because you saw that opportunity, that the market was going to grow, and it has happened, very well. So you must learn to turn those challenges into opportunities, and be able to make, the best of it.
Surely, are you sure we're not going to write a book with you much later on this? There's quite a lot of things you have said. So, so for the sake of, because there were so many things you were saying, so I'm going to sort of take you on step by step on all the points you have mentioned. So you were talking about the growth stages, and you talked about from startup to those growth phases. You mentioned that a key thing that you need to understand is about the grind. So let's start up with the startups. Now, let's say you're in business in 2 to 3 years, or 2 to 3 years in business, right? You've put everything, you have your CAC and all of that, and you're already in business. So what are the things that you would advise that those people at that particular phase should think about in preparation for seizing opportunities on their growth trajectory?
Okay, so I think 2 or 3 years in business too early to actually know whether you are going to do well or not, or it is too early for you to be disappointed in what you are doing. Don't forget what I said.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand the business you are getting into.
Yep.
The market is big or ripe for a new player like you, right? So because everybody is doing it does not mean that you know the opportunity is there. And
Yeah.
like we just like to do what is fashionable, what everybody is doing. I think one has to be very careful about it. I kid you not. For a new business, it's going to take you 5 years to be established. It's going to take minimum of 5 years to be established in the business. So 2-3 years, don't give up. So for any business you are getting into, you must be very clear in knowing fully well that there's opportunity in this. So banking, for example, so many banks. So what are you going to do differently so that within 5 years you will do very? I was talking to a chairman of a bank, and he said, "Wale, we must be able to sign the top 50 corporates in the market within 90 days if we are going to be successful." That means the 50 biggest corporate companies in Nigeria, right? They must open an account with us and actually do business with us within 90 days. If we do not do it, it's going to be tough for us to be successful, right? So the man already clearly knew where he was going because he's been a veteran in the business. He understands the market clearly, right? And he knew the game plan, right? So when we started Quadros, for example, I just didn't like to be retail. I just didn't like the idea of retail. I just thought that to make a success of a business at that time, the market I must focus on institutional clients. I just wanted to deal with international clients and global brokers and pension funds. That was all. And I was very clear on how I wanted to do it. So it was clearly on, and I knew that if I did that within 5 years, we're very clear that we must be top 10 in the market within 10 years, within 5 years. And we were. Within 5 years, we were top 10 stockbroking firm in the market. So you have to be very clear, have clarity of mind on what you want to do. So 2-3 years, maybe too early, just keep grinding it. Understand on the target market, the target buyers of your products. Make sure you know them very well and they know you. Have the right people to work. And I'm sure that within those 5 years, you will be an established player. I'm saying that you are going to be a successful player, or you'll be an established player. Then you have another 5 years to now be a success player. So you need to understand those transitions. Where do we start from? What are we going to achieve in 5 years? I mean, you said some people set up within 2-3 years. They delay gratification. They don't delay gratification. They open a business, right? The first thing they do is to buy a building, right? When you need capital, you are buying a fixed asset. I don't think that is right. So they enjoy that luxury of being the managing director. They do not want to delay that gratification. I don't think those kind of businesses will last. They will have.
They're not serious. Yeah, I agree, sir.
They are going to have a challenging 2-3 years. They are going to have a challenging 2-3 years because you need all the resources at that time to be an established player in that line of business.
So, well, in fact, sir, if you can see, I like the fact that you broke it down and you are very clear that if you're not, if you're there for the money, you're going to lose out. Delayed gratification is key. And I like the way you're sort of segmented it and dimensioned it. You have said the first 5 years, established players, the next 5 years, then you'll be a successful player. So we have established that first 5 years. That number one, you must be clear on what you are doing. Don't just do things because everybody is doing it. You need to be clear about who you are, what you have in terms of what value are you bringing into the market. Then you are willing to go through the grind. Then in 5 years, with delayed gratification, and what you used earlier on was discipline, you'll be established. Now, sir, now that we have gone through the 5 years, right? Now we're going to the next 5 years to become successful players. What are some of the things? And you mentioned some very important things, and we're going to go into it. Is number one, how do we get the right set of people? Now, you mentioned about surrounding yourselves with people. How do we get people? And so before I I want to put another layer to that is how do you ensure that yes, you're getting people? How do you get people to have a buy-in to your mission and to your vision, which you mentioned earlier on? So this is taking us to the next 5 years to become successful.
Okay, so I think that phase of growth requires that you take a risk, right? And risk taking comes in different shapes and sizes. Take risk on people. So sometimes people say, if you are growing a business, you need people to be skilled or knowledgeable in helping you or working with you to grow the business, right? So you need to take risk on people, or that risk on people. I think we need to train our people, right? Some people say, oh, if I train them, they will leave.
They will leave.
What does it matter? You have to take that risk, people. So don't forget, at that first 5 years, you have clarity of purpose and clarity of mind. You have been able to establish what you want to do with these people that you are working with. So they are clear. But they also haven't made up their mind whether they want to be with you.
Yeah.
These people also have their own plans.
Yes, I totally agree on that, sir.
People have their own plans. So they haven't really, they are just working because they like you, they like the organization, but they have their own plan. How do you help them to ensure that they abandon their doubt or their plan to now want to, trust their future career into your organization, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the issue of taking that risk on them by being open, have open conversation with them, and talk to them on what they require to grow their career. When people see that openness, they see that they are taking risk on them. I think most likely they will want to continue to build with you, and you now keep building a team. It's easier. That's number one on people. Two, take the risk of, for example, diversifying your business offering. First 5 years, for example, you are coming out with best foot forward. That is what you know how to do the best, is what you are going to start with, right? Then, when you are now established, you now want to try other things that are linked to what you are doing, so you can diversify your service offerings, right? And it's very simple. So I'm sure you know the story of Dangote, where he started from. It was buying cement and importing rice and all sorts.
Yes.
And he now set up factories in Nigeria. Then he now, from doing that, he started buying new companies. He started setting up big cement plants. Then he diversified into other things, rest. So that next stage is for you to start taking risks. And that's what we did. So for the first 5 years, we were a pure stockbroking firm. Then we said, you know what? We cannot depend solely on just doing stockbroking. We have to do other things. And we now diversify into investment banking and asset management.
Yeah.
10 years. After the 10 years, we were going to another 5 years. We now started looking how to diversify the board. And we started doing trusteeship, registrar business, and insurance brokerage, right? So you were taking the risk by ensuring that you diversify, whatever services or offerings that you have, for your clients. And of course, geographical areas as well. Do you want to be in Lagos alone? Do you want to move to other locations? Do you want to go to Abuja? Do you want to go to other places? So that there's a concentration risk in a particular location.
Yeah.
Look at UBA, for example. 50% of revenue from UBA is now coming from Africa. They have offices in 20 countries. So that has helped them to diversify, their revenue base. And of course, they have the risk, Nigeria. So if anything happens in Nigeria, they know that 50% of the revenue is guaranteed from other
sources here.
African countries. So that's my own idea of what to do after the first 5 years. And of course, you must always have, a target for what you want to achieve while doing your long-term planning. In terms of market share, for example, no matter how small your business is, even if you are selling bread, if you are located in, say, Ikeja, you are selling bread, you say that, hey, my space is Ikeja, right? I must be able to grow my market share in Ikeja from this to this within 3-4 years. How do you do it? You need capital, you need people, you need other resources to help you to achieve that objective. So you challenge yourself, right? So competitive analysis markets, and you want to ensure that you meet those targets. But if you don't, you'll be lost in the crowd.
Yeah.
Easily you get lost in the crowd, right? Unless what you want to do is just a niche, market offering that I only want to serve 10 people. I do not want to do more than 10, people. But if you really want to grow, then you must have, those competitive analysis and set targets for yourself on how you want to grow your business. And you go about achieving it with all the resources that you require to make you to achieve those goals.
Oh, Mr. Wale, in fact, I'm in an MBA class, and thank you for. I love the way we're having this conversation, and I hope we're learning. I mean, my notes here are full, and in fact, there's something I'm going to ask you much later, because I can see the conversation in the chat box. I really want to know how you did that 50% compounded annual growth rate. I mean, it's I can say a lot of it's mind blowing, and it'd be good for us to really understand what you did. But before we go into that conversation, I want to ask anybody: do we have questions? Because it's very important that the whole essence of this series is that we clarify and learn from those who have gone ahead of us. So it's important that we ask questions. So you can either raise your hands, and I can give you 1 minute to ask a question, not a comment yet, but a question. I can see someone raising up. Okay, Jumoke, please, your hands are raised. All right. So before I continue my question, Jumoke, please, over to you.
Thank you, Babati, and thank you, Wale, for this insightful conversation. So quick question. You said I've never heard this before. First 5 years is for establishment, next 5 years is for growth. Absolutely amazing. But my question is, there are times when you didn't plan for a business opportunity, it crops up, and it could crop up in your year 2. Should you pivot? Should you take it on? What do you think if that happens? What should a business leader do? Thank you.
Thank you, Jumoke. Well said. Yeah.
See, what Jumoke just said now just reminded me of a meeting I had with one of my colleagues during the week, right? Opportunities will always come, right? You must be prepared to take advantage of that opportunity. However, is in your year 1, year 2, or year 10, or year 15. Opportunity will come. But you have to be very careful that you have the resources, right, to explore or take advantage of those opportunities, right? If you do not have those resources, that opportunity may put you in a big trouble when you see them. So you have to be very careful about those opportunities when they come, and be sure that you have those resources to take advantage of that. But you never say no to opportunities. Never say no. I mean, we are in an industry where it is difficult for you to reject any opportunity that you have seen, right, or that come across you, right? But when you do not have resources, you can actually handle those opportunities when they come with collaboration. Have collaborative efforts with people around you who you can handle those opportunities together. I was talking to a colleague of mine who got a very big mandate, works in another company and did not have the resources to handle it. And I said, don't worry. Why don't you outsource, the skill that you need and contract it out and bring people to help you? So they'll be speaking for that. So don't lose that opportunity. And that's what happened. And they got somebody to, handle that part of the business that they didn't have the resources to handle. And it was a big, transaction for them. And through that collaboration and outsourcing, contracting it out, they were able to do it very well. So there's nothing wrong in that. So the opportunity, anytime they come, whether they are year one, or year two, but do it very well. If you don't have the resources, you can collaborate with other people so that I can take advantage of, that opportunity that you have seen.
So Wale, I fantastic response, and I think it sort of piggyback on what you said about vision, about state of mind. So the entrepreneur needs to ask himself the question that, do you want to have 100% of nothing or 20% or 10% of something, which simply means partnership. Thank you so very much for that. Two people want to ask questions, and I'll follow up on this issue of how do we ensure that we have right partnership and sort of safeguard against when the people default. So Benga Tutoyi has a question, and I'll quickly come to Oiko. So Benga, over to you, then Oiko next.
Thank you so much, Babati. It's a pleasure to listen to Oga Wale again. I can see him smiling.
Yeah, good to hear. Long time. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. I'm very well. Pleasure to hear you speak, and pleasure to have seen the growth of your company. You're a man of your words, and congratulations. My question, sir, is in those transitions that you were talking about. And you used your story and UBA. And what I want you to please provide more answers to is, so imagine your core business is, say, giving you 50, 70. In fact, let me just use the UBA example. You said the cash cow, a part of their business, kept growing year on year at a particular rate, even at the same time that they were diversifying and going into other things to expand their opportunity. So my question is, how do you maintain that strategic focus to keep the cash cow or the strong part of the business growing consistently, even whilst you are spreading out your wings and trying to lay new tracks for the future? How do you strike that balance to make sure you keep growing, the cash cow is established and keeps growing, but you are also stretching and taking risk and expanding your limits into other markets? Thank you, sir.
Well said, Benga.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Benga. Thank you very much. It's a tricky one because you want to protect, while growing, you still want to be able to protect, that business that has been successful, or that service that has been successful, in that your business. So you must let go, right? You must trust people that when you hand over to them, that area of business that you have made, you have been successful at, the people that you have handed that part of business to, they are equipped to do a good job, right? They can handle it while you are also pivoting into other areas. So trust is important. A lot of entrepreneurs find it very difficult to trust people, and they cannot empower people they are working with. They just can't, because they just want to keep micromanaging everybody, and you're never going to be successful. But with governance, right, with clarity of thought and purpose, the people that you have handed that part of business that have been successful to, they will probably do it better than you. And that's the honest truth. Just have clarity on what you want them to do. And of course, you are having strategic planning all the time. They are giving you feedback. And you have opportunities at different times and different meetings to get feedback from them. They will do it better than you. I can tell you that. And I've seen it. That's happened. In some of the businesses that I have handed over to other, my colleagues in the office to manage. Because, you want to be sure that when you are taking the risk of diversifying to other areas, you protect the one that gives you the golden egg. If you don't do that, you will probably lose it all. So when you set up a new business, for example, it's going to take minimum, don't forget what we said, about 5 years to be established. You are probably going to be running losses for 3-4 years. And you ensure that with the one you left behind, you are able to generate enough resources to take care of the adventure, let me use that word, that you now have gotten yourself into. Right? You can see another bank that we've seen that they have been practically busy in the last 3 years with different M&As all over Africa. Right? They have been on a big adventure. Right? And you can see how they are struggling, to maintain. Because the cost of that adventure is telling on their balance sheet. But they have been very careful in protecting the one that is feeding all the other ones that they are buying. So it's very important for you to ensure that you trust people to handle it for you, and of course, you also ensure that you have that governance to make them accountable and to protect, what you have handed over to them. I think trust and clarity of purpose is very important. When you are doing that, Benga, I hope that helps.
That's it. Thank you so much. I got value. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wale. I would want to follow up on that again. So there are two follow-up, but let Oikon talk. Oikon, please go on, man.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, sir. Thank you for sharing your time with us this morning. I found this session really insightful and valuable for me. I had a two-part question. I remember being told strategy is as much about what you do as it is about what you don't do. So on the one hand, thinking about that COVID period, I think in that period was when Quadras Capital started expanding, especially into insurance registrar, as you mentioned earlier on. I was wondering what you think, or in what frame of mind does an entrepreneur need to be in order to be able to see opportunities in a situation where everybody else is panicking? So how do you discern between when people are panicking and they're right about panicking, because everything's going to go kaput, and when people are wrong to panic and it's an opportunity for you to make big gains and take that risk? And then on the other hand, I noticed very early on you mentioned that you weren't at all interested in retail and you really wanted to focus on institutional. And so when you were making that decision about what not to do and who you weren't going to serve, considering that the retail market in Nigeria, especially for investment, isn't massively tapped in terms of retail investors. So there is a huge market, but it would be a lot of work to kind of create it. So in terms of institutional investment, there's a lot of players in that market. So what was your key consideration when you decided, despite the fact that there's lots of competition, I'm going to hang my hat on the institutional market and kind of leave retail to others to enter?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oyinkon, for that question. Number one, so when do you know, how do you know when it is time to take risk, right? So as an entrepreneur, right, I mean, it may sound very pedestrian, but you must trust your intuition, to know where that opportunity is going to come from. You must trust that intuition that you have and share it share the idea you have, right, with people around you, your board, your senior colleagues, have sessions where you can tell them what you are thinking of, right? So during COVID, don't forget that a lot of people were at home during COVID. I just thought that, see, the investment market, people will now have a lot to, because they will not be spending a lot at that time on expenses. They will be spending more on investments. And markets all over the world will rampage if that happens. So this is a time to take a bigger risk, at that time. It was just my intuition. And that was what happened, right? And when I, share this idea with my colleagues, and some of them resisted it, they said, oh, we'll be taking too much risk. In fact, that was the time that we started doing global markets by trading in other markets out of Nigeria. We started trading, other African markets, from Nigeria. We started raising capital for other companies out of Nigeria. And we just thought that it was a good time to diversify and take advantage of what was happening, outside of, Nigeria then. And it worked. So when you have that clarity of purpose, and you have that power of intuition, and you have that strategic planning, and you share your ideas for people to validate what you have, if you're going to be wrong, people will say, no, it's not going to work. And of course, you have to respect those opinions coming from people you have trusted to work with you, right? And I believe that will work, very well for you. Then coming to the issue of how we decided on we're going with institutional clients at that time and not retail. Don't forget what I said. You have to start with your best, making your best foot forward, right? I wasn't strong in retail. I didn't like the idea of retail. Retail is actually the most profitable, because when you do business with retail people, they don't negotiate, your fees. They pay whatever you ask them to pay because they are not as sophisticated, right? But you need a lot of people in that retail space to be able to make so much. So why don't you start with the, those that can give you the biggest of transactions, and you come back to retail. And we eventually went into retail, maybe 7-8 years after. We were late in coming, but we eventually went to retail. And retail probably forms about 20-25% of our business now, right? And it's okay because we don't have the technology to support that growth. We are usually mutual funds. We have about 6 mutual funds in the market. Mutual funds are for retail investors. We have about 30 or 35 billion naira under management for mutual funds, which is purely retail. So because we now knew that later we'll be for developing technology to take care of that retail market, we have to wait. We didn't want to do everything at a go because we knew we're not strong at that area. We didn't have the resources to invest in technology. We're not even sure that people were going to do. We're not even sure people were going to do that. But anyway, I worked in a place, where from day one, my managing director said the future is retail. I used to say I don't have the time. I used to tell him then. I said, that's your business. So me, I don't have the time for retail. But he believed so much in it that the future is retail. That was his belief. But he was right. Eventually, this company now control the biggest number of retail investors in the market. But it was very clear on what he wanted to do, and he did it that way, investing heavily in technology, and it paid off. So, see, one size does not fit all, but must have clarity of purpose of what you want to do. You can start with whatever you think is okay for you now, and later, now move on by diversifying to other. So, but I agree with, when you call about retail forming the biggest chunk of the market. And of course, the future still continues because we're in a very large market. Nigeria is a very large market, and we're very lucky to be in this market. Anybody that says not lucky to be in Nigeria or is not lucky to be a Nigerian probably doesn't know what he's doing. The market is massive. and you don't even have to be worried about your competitor because we have not even covered anything, at all. So I hope that that answers the question from where you come.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wale. And there's a lot of fact. I don't know. I'm looking at my time, and there's a lot of things that you have said. I like to follow up on Benga Tutoi's question, Benga's question, and I want to ask, sir, at what point would you advise dissociation from your core business when this new business seems to be picking up rapidly and right now is sort of cannibalizing what your core businesses are doing or was doing or is doing at that particular point in time? And you know that a lot of entrepreneurs have a lot of emotional attachment to where they were coming from, but these are new opportunities, new growth areas. What is the thinking and the mindset that is required to sort of dissociate from your core and sort of go gung-ho on these new opportunities? What is the mindset of the thinking that is required?
No, growth. That is the only thing. Growth. You want to grow.
Yeah.
Right? You want to grow, right? If you don't want to grow, then you can just stay where you are. But if as an entrepreneur, I don't think there's any entrepreneur that, maybe there are very few ones who don't want to grow. But if your growth is your ambition, right, then you will need to diversify. You need to grow your client base. You need to bring new service offerings on board. And don't forget what I said earlier. Then you have to make sure that where you are coming from in terms of other businesses, other service offerings that you have, you protect carefully, right? While you now focus on new areas. Let me tell you, one of the businesses that we took on, 5 years ago, extremely challenging. In fact, I'm used to my directors telling me when we bring a new business to say, Wale, why are you taking us into this type of business that is going to record losses for 3 years? Close it now. That's what they always say. Close it. We don't want it. Right? And you as the entrepreneur, as the managing director, as the leader, must have clarity of mind and carry them along on what is going to happen and when that turnaround will come. Do you understand? So let me tell you, in our stockbroking business, when we started, we were doing very well. Very well. We were doing very well in our own way because it was profitable. Shareholders were getting their dividend. Everything was good. Then we set up the asset management business. And I said, hey, we are going to be
Sorry, Mr. Wale. Sorry, Mr. Wale. Somebody, please, God's gift. All right, thank you. Mr. Wale, sorry about that. Sorry for the interruption.
And I was very clear in telling them that, hey, if we do not have a 40 billion asset under management, we will not break even. Very clear. And I said, for us to have a 40 billion AUM, it's going to take 4 or 5 years. I need your help so that we can get there. And so when in the first year, you are recording 300 million loss. Second year, 400 million loss. Your investors are going to, go rampage. That was going on. Why are you bringing a business that is going to create losses? I said, no. We need to build technology. We need to build people. We need to open new offices. It's going to be expensive to do. But when I break even, right, it becomes an annuity income for the rest of the life, and it's going on. So that clarity of thought, that clarity of purpose, that strategic planning, that will help you during that growth stage. And you must be able to share it carefully with the people who are working with you, your directors, your colleagues, and everything. But lo and behold, in this business, by the 4th year, we go to 36 or 37 and we broke even. And then this business has been growing easily for the last 4 or 5 years and contributing a great chunk to our group income. So having to plan, having to have, I keep going back to trusting your intuition, having a clarity of purpose, having that strategic planning and having people to work with you, and of course, being open and being transparent and communicating your goals and ambitions to the stakeholders around you. Those things are very important to take you through that transition that you want to have.
Wow. Mr. Wale, for all of us on the call, again, I keep hearing the same thing over and over again, and that is what facilitates buying: communication, communication, communication. We are emphasizing our mission, our vision, our goals, the objectives, why we are here, and that reinforcement and the transparency and the openness sort of allays fears and sort of builds the confidence to move into the future. There's a comment by Oiko on the platform, and she says this as a follow-up to what you said, sir. She says that's really interesting. It seems in this case, your intuition was driven by simple insight about human instinct. Can it be said that the risks which pay off the most come from a bet on human psychology? I personally, that her thought is really interesting. So for me, I would like to sort of recoin that and ask, what does data play in driving growth? Because there's a lot of things that you have said about positioning yourself in the future and taking a bet on people, and after the first 5 years, going to your growth stage, taking a risk. What does data, in terms of generating insight before we can take those risks, what does it play in that growth trajectory?
Oh, no, data is extremely important and useful. You can't do without it. You can't just go, you can't set up a business without having an idea of where the opportunity is going to come from and what people are already doing and what will happen in years to come, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be able to review data available, and of course, in your strategic planning, with your strategy planning team, you must have the data to help you to see where you are going. And of course, how do you make use of data, right? Let's just pick, one of the, let's pick banking, for example, banking service.
Okay.
Yeah, right? Or, banking service. We hear that there are 230 million Nigerians, right? How many Nigerians have bank accounts? We hear maybe about 40 million Nigerians have bank accounts. Or maybe it's more now. I'm not very sure. So when you're in a country where you have 230 million people, and you have about 40 to 60 million of that 200 million who only have bank accounts. So what's the data telling you? Data is telling you that there's opportunity in the next 10 years for you to move from 40 to 60 million to maybe 80 million, right?
Yeah.
How do you serve that market, right? And you have people you have companies like Kuda, who have come to the market to say, we do not need a brick and mortar shop, to get data. You have firms like MoneyPoint, OP, who have invaded the market and taken good market share from the traditional banking businesses to now have, I hear that Kuda, for example, their deposits is actually bigger than some of the tier 3 banks, because they have been able to use data to get market insights and focus on their target market, the young people, because there is the power of technology and there's data, there's, telephone and of course internet that young people can, through, their mobile devices, do banking. And they also say, oh, we're not going to charge, if you are transferring, we are making, money transfers. So that drew a lot of people to them, right? But the use of data helps you to get insights into your service offerings, into your target customers, and of course, also help you to, look at market share and see the potential that you have over a period of time. So you can start to predict what the future will be. that, oh, we can start now, and within 1 year, we should be able to get 1 million customers. Within the next 5 years, we should be able to get 5 million customers. Of course, we should be able to get 10 customers. So data helps a great deal. And of course, I make use of data, a lot in determining where I want to go to, how I want to do it, and whether we're going to make success of it, if we go into that, area.
Thank you so much. Well, and again, thank you so much. And for those of us who are on the call, I hope we are really learning a lot. And this understanding consumer behavior and the shifts happening in that space is such a critical thing for all of us who are in business, and it's ongoing. And I think that's what Oikwa was alluding to about human psychology. That is, those shifts in consumer behaviors are things that we need to sort of understand. And so how can we plug in? What services can we provide? What opportunities can we take as a consequence of these shifts happening within this market? So I'd like us to just go back a bit whilst I'm waiting for other people's comments and questions. So let's go back to the first 5 years. Yeah, how do we manage cash flow? How do we manage? Because cash is king. And like you said, you're going to go through that period of the grind. How do you manage cash? You for the first, like Jumoke was talking about, you meet an opportunity, you make your first 1 billion. And the assumption is that 1 billion is going to come on year, and we just blow that money away. How do we manage for the first 5 years in terms of us being established players? The first one, how do we manage cash flow and the governance around that?
Okay. So I always like to advise, entrepreneurs. Number one, when you want to business, make sure that you have enough capital for the business you are going into, right? Your business must be adequate. Don't start without having enough capital to take you to start that business, because capital is a very important, resource to have. With capital, you can invest in technology, you can invest in people, and you can explore opportunities around you, right? And if you do not have that capital to start, you are going to have cash flow problems that will not help you to expand, to help to make your journey smooth, right? That's number one. Number two, you need in financial controls, strong controls that will help you to navigate and manage your cash flow, very well, right? And number one thing to do is cost saving. When you do it without spending, if possible, do it without spending. Do whatever you can do to avoid spending at that stage, right? Sometimes I see, people who are just starting in their journey, right? And they spend so much in things that are not necessary, right? If you are in financial services, for example, and you are spending so much on, say, advertisements, buying luxury items, spending so much on things that you do not require, you're going to have cash flow constraints. Also, that you are able to deliver your services to minimize receivables.
Yeah.
People are going to be owing you in any way. Why would you be able to do business? Why would you be doing business with people who you're happy to give credit to when you do not have the resources to do that? So make sure that you control your cost a great deal. You have so many cost-saving measures. And that's why you need people around you who share the same, the same vision and idea in terms of where you want to be. You don't forget what I said, that you do not spend so much on capex when you are a startup. People set up businesses, they want to have the most fanciful of offices. The most fanciful of furniture item around them, the most fanciful of technology devices. At that stage, you don't need that. Do it without spending much. You know, I was opportunity to speak to a young man recently who, you know, is to lead, who was to lead a startup. And while talking to the investors, they asked him, "Oh, where do you intend to have your office?" And the guy said, "I do not need an office. My office is my laptop." That what we are doing is an infrastructure financing business. We don't even need anybody to see us. Anything they want to do, they can do it online. And for the first 2 years, I do not want to have an office. My office and all the 5 people who are going to start with me, our office is our laptop. And we're all impressed with the submission of that guy. He said, "No, we don't need a car. We don't need anything. We're all fine with what we'll be doing." Not so many young people will want to have that kind of, idea. They just want to be like the other person. They want to be like a Tony, tomorrow, by also having, all the, perks of this.
The perks of yeah.
So the key word is do it without spending.
I love that word, that phrase.
That will help you in terms of cash flow management. If you have enough capital to start, if you have enough financial control in place, and if you do it without spending so much, I think it will help you in your managing your cash flow a lot better.
I love the last point, sir. Do it without spending. So I have 2 questions. The first question is from Oriko again. She says that what traits were you looking for in your new hires in the first 5 years?
Oh, okay. Sometimes you have to bring the best in people, even when they don't know it. When they don't know they can do it. And when I am at an interview, right? My colleagues know that when I am distracted during an interview, it means that that person has not impressed me during that interview. So when I'm on an interview and all I'm doing is to be writing something down or pressing my phone, not looking into the eyes of whoever I'm interviewing, they know that, oh, it doesn't look like Wale is impressed with this person, right? Sometimes the person can say the right thing that will not get my attention, right? But I look for people who just have a simple idea of what they want to do. Just get a simple idea. Just show that belief that, oh, I have an idea of what they want me to do. I just need to have that idea that this guy apparently he just needs a help in pushing him and he will do it. So I'm just not looking for too much. I just want you to have a simple of idea that this is what you are being hired for, and you have the opportunity. I think there was a time that we were to hire a guy who was to be in research, and he's coming from another, I think it was coming from another research, a company providing research services in the financial services, that sector, in our sector. And it came with all the, grandiose of, oh, I know what I'm doing. And I think it put a lot of people off within 5 minutes with what he said. And I said, no. Let us listen to this guy very well. He has an idea. He probably is not presenting it the right way, and he was able to get the attention of everybody eventually. So people just need to trust that when they're hiring, you may not get a star at interview, in terms of their ability to articulate what they do and also, but they just need to have that glimpse of, what they are doing, and they should be given that chance.
So Wale, you're very rare. I mean, you're very rare, and I also like to say with Benga that I think I had done some work with your company with Benga on training, and I could actually see that you walk your talk about genuinely working with people and giving them a chance. It takes a lot for an organization to spend time to train, enable, and empower. Because for me, one of the key things I look for in leaders is that leaders create or enable opportunities. My time is nearly up. There's so much I'd like to just ask one very last comment, sir. Sir, we need to bring you back, and maybe both of us will have to collaborate in writing your book. Don't worry, sir. There's something on your website that I found very interesting, right? Very, very interesting. And it's towards the end of your about, which I think is key, and it's something that's very important to me as a consultant. You said that building relationship is at the core of your growth philosophy. And for me, that presupposes your stakeholders and your customers. So I want to sort of isolate one. In terms of managing your customers, how would you rate customer experience in any business?
So your employers are your customers.
Fantastic.
Those are your customers. And you have to do the best to ensure that you give them the reason to be happy that they are paying for that service. So many people make mistakes by treating their customers without letting them have a good experience with them. People generally, and sometimes in Nigeria, Nigerians may not be the best in terms of giving good service, to customers. But it's a struggle, because you may have that idea on how to have customer service excellence, but you must be able to articulate down your ideas among all the people, all the stakeholders in your organization, your staff, so that they can have that buy-in on how a customer is to be treated. And don't forget that you cannot be an expert in this as the entrepreneur, as the managing director, because that's not your area. This is somebody whose specialization is delivering customer service experience, the best customer service experience to your customers, who will now be the one to help you to plan on how to get this done, right? And ensure that it cascades throughout the entire organization, so that it can be seen as a company that is customer centric.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you are working with people, when a customer calls them, they will say, "Oh, this man has come again, he's disturbing me." Or, "This customer, I hate to hear this customer is troublesome. This customer is this." Oh, that is who your employer is. You are actually better with a customer that expresses himself by telling you the challenges that they have doing business with you, than the one that will not say anything and quietly walks away. That one that expresses himself because he has not had a very good experience is helping you to do better. I will probably do more with you, or refer other people to do more with you. Right? So creating that customer experience journey. And customers are not asking for too much. I hope you know that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Nigerians are very easy to satisfy when it comes to service delivery, because they've had so much of bad experience in many other organizations anyway, They just want to have someone or a company that just give them the opportunity to be able to do whatever they want to do, and they're happy to come back or to refer them to other people. So you need to develop that expertise through consultants, to your whoever is leading customer experience in your organization, to help you to craft it, and it becomes a culture of the organization. In terms of customer service excellence, it must be a culture of the organization, not only driven from the top, but it must be within, it must come into a culture of the organization, and everybody will be happy. When you have an organization where the people who work in that organization are not even treated well, right? They will not be able to deliver that good experience. If you are not a great place to work, it's difficult for you to find people who want to buy a good customer experience, to those customers, right? So you must internal customers must be satisfied. Then before you cannot transfer it to external customers.
External customers. Yeah. Sir, in fact, sir, that is so profound. You really cannot have external customer experience without ensuring that we have an internal customer experience. If our people are not treated well, how do you expect them to treat your customers well? And I like the fact that you said, how do we create an organization that is a great place to work? And you answered it again, sir, by saying ensuring that the culture is pervasive. It's not just from the tone at the top, it has to be pervasive in the organization. I don't know how to say, our time is just up, and some people are coming up with questions, and this is interesting. All right, sir. Very quickly, if you don't mind, so let's just run through these questions. And these are the last two questions, and we're done. This is from a student who is working. He says that when you have an idea, but everything seems so confusing, in order to give birth to what your thoughts are, how do people like me come out of this confusion? That you have so many ideas, but you're confused. 2, he says that as a working student, how do I leverage on stocks for savings and generating wealth? That's the first question. So can I add another question to that from the last person? You just answer everything. Is that okay with you, sir?
Let me quickly answer that. For that, okay, see, the best thing to do is for you to have a mentor. Have a mentor that you can share your ideas with, and that mentor must be somebody who's an expert in that area of what you want to do, right? And it can help you so that they can help you to articulate what you need to do, so that confusion that you can have clarity. From confusion, you can have clarity. I think that's very important. Share those ideas with somebody you see as a mentor to help you in articulating your ideas, and I think you'll be better. And of course, how do you start an investment, into stocks or other financial instruments? The thing is for you to understand what you want to do with that stocks or any other investment you want to do. Why are you investing? Are you investing to trade, or are you investing to build a portfolio for the future? And you can start as little as possible. So they give you 20,000 pocket money every month. Devote 2,000 naira or 5,000 naira into investing on a monthly or a quarterly basis, and that helps you to build a portfolio, for the future. And it becomes a habit, and you now keep investing and creating, that portfolio that will be helpful to you when you start working, when you want to retire, or and things like that. But you have to. The journey starts from now, and so you're very almost. You have so many platforms where you can invest. There are so many financial service providers everywhere that gives you that platform to be able to do that. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Wale. In fact, the other question was just actually a comment. And the person, Mr. Charles Opisheson, says, thank you very much, sir. Yes, we are in business because of the customer. We actually start businesses because of the customer. And I think Peter Drucker actually alluded to that. It says, organizations exist because of the customer. Adiola, we will need to wrap up please, if you don't mind. I mean, Mr. Wale has been speaking for over an hour right now. I also need to rest. If you don't mind, please. All right, Mr. Wale, I thank you for the gift of access. Thank you for your time. I mean, this is over 1 hour, 30 minutes of pure transparency. I remember you did mention you had no notes. But thank you for sharing your thoughts and your wealth of experience and your wisdom and the potential collaboration on our book that we're going to write together on business growth. All right, thank you everyone for this opportunity. Can we really celebrate Mr. Wale Agbeyangi for sharing his thoughts? I really celebrate you, sir. Can you really celebrate? So on the chat box, please, can you all really show your love to, yes, and everybody's they're really saying well done, sir. Well done, sir. Thank you very much. All right, I want to, yes, to everyone on the call, what we do is the Triad series. It's something that we do regularly, and it usually takes us into what we call the Triad Masterclass, where we do a deep dive on some of the key issues that Mr. Wale has spoken about. Mr. Wale said, I have a lot of things that he said, but because of time, the things I was going to ask around culture, things I was going to ask around governance, because he kept talking about it. He kept talking about directors. I was going to ask, how do you manage your directors? And how do you get these people on board in terms of partnership and all of that? How do you allow people come into your business and take and be shareholders in what you are building? There's quite a lot. So in the Triad Masterclass, we deal with all of these issues around strategy, around innovation. How do we innovate processes to ensure that we're able to capture markets, and how do we get the right people? So we really want each and every one of you to be part of what we're building, and of course, we'll see later. So please, there's a poll that is ongoing. Please fill the questions as the case may be. All right. So thank you, everyone, and God bless you. Mr. Wale will release you. Thank you very much, and have a good morning, everyone. And we see you in the next session. Thank you, Mr. Wale, for the gift of access. Thank you. All right. God bless everyone. See you next time.